If you are listening to this right now, slow down. Do not scroll. Do not multitask. This is not background noise. There are messages that inform. And there are messages that recognize you. This one recognizes you. Because something is happening in the spirit that cannot be explained to the masses, only felt by the chosen. God is releasing a new kind of power. Not loud. Not flashy. Not aggressive. And the world will try to copy it. But they won't be able to. Because this power does not come from strategy. It does not come from influence. It does not come from knowledge, platforms, or popularity. It comes from passing tests no one saw you take. And if you felt pressure without explanation, if you felt isolated but protected, if you felt misunderstood yet strangely calm, this message is for you. The world is used to copying success. When something works, people reverse engineer it. They study it. They mimic it. They package it. But what God is releasing in you cannot be learned. Because this power was not taught. It was forged. Forged in silence. Forged in disappointment. Forged in moments where you had to trust God without signs. Most people want power without transformation. But God does not give power that way. He gives power through process. And that's why what's activating in you right now is making people uncomfortable, even if they don't know why. They can feel something about you that doesn't match your words, your status, or your situation. And they don't know how to copy it. You used to wonder why your life didn't unfold like others. Why opportunities came later. Why recognition was delayed. Why doors opened slowly, or not at all. But this delay wasn't punishment. It was protection. Because this power cannot be released prematurely. If it had come earlier, it would have been contaminated by ego, people-pleasing, or the need for validation. God waited until you no longer needed applause. Until you could be alone without being bitter. Until you could obey without being seen. That's when the real power qualifies to enter. And now, the season has shifted. Not loudly, but undeniably. Here's what's about to happen. People will start calling your power things it isn't. They'll call it luck, confidence, charisma, energy, mindset. Because the world hates admitting God did something they can't replicate. They will try to teach it, monetize it, brand it, turn it into formulas. But they will keep missing the core. Because what you carry is not a technique. It's alignment. And alignment cannot be copied. You may have noticed something strange. When you walk into rooms now, conversations shift. People get quieter or defensive. Some feel drawn to you. Others feel threatened. And you didn't change your personality. You didn't say anything different. What changed is what's active within you. Your presence now highlights what others are avoiding in themselves. And people don't like mirrors unless they're ready to change. This is not arrogance. This is spiritual authority without force. And it cannot be faked. There was a time when you felt the need to explain yourself. To justify your choices. To defend your pace. To prove your worth to people who never truly saw you. But something has changed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. You don't feel the same urgency to convince anymore. And that is not weakness. That is power settling in. At first, this shift may have confused you. You may have thought you were losing motivation, losing ambition, losing fire. But you weren't losing anything. You were outgrowing performance. Because when God releases real authority, it doesn't arrive with anxiety. It arrives with inner stillness. You no longer feel rushed to speak before being spoken to. You no longer interrupt your own peace to be understood. You no longer chase approval from people who benefit from your self-doubt. That is not withdrawal. That is alignment. This power doesn't argue. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't over-explain. Because it knows something counterfeit power never learns. What's real doesn't beg to be recognized. False authority shouts. True authority settles. And the moment this power activated in you, you stopped needing external permission to be yourself. You may have noticed this in small, almost invisible moments. You walk away from conversations that once drained you, without guilt. You stop correcting people who misunderstand you, without resentment. You allow silence to do the explaining, without fear. That's not avoidance. That's confidence without arrogance. That's maturity without hardness. That's power that trusts itself. Here's something important. When God gives a person real power, He also removes their need to prove. Because proof is for insecurity. And insecurity cannot carry this level of authority. That's why you no longer feel called to convince people of your value, your intentions, or your destiny. You don't need to chase belief. Alignment speaks louder than arguments ever could. You may even feel slightly detached from outcomes now. Not because you don't care, but because you trust God's timing more than your effort. You show up. You do what you're called to do. And then you release control. That used to feel impossible. Now it feels natural. This is one of the clearest signs that the power in you is God-given, not ego-driven. People around you may misinterpret this phase. They may think you're distant. They may think you've changed. They may think you're less hungry. But they're wrong. You're just no longer desperate. And desperation is what the world uses to manipulate, rush, and drain people. You stepped out of that system. Quietly. This power doesn't need you to push doors. It opens them. It doesn't require force. It creates gravity. Things come toward you now, not because you chased them, but because you became stable enough to receive them. And stability is rare. That's why it stands out. You're also learning something else. You don't owe everyone access. You don't owe explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't owe your energy to prove a point. This power is selective. Not because you're superior, but because it must be protected. There is a holy restraint developing in you. You choose silence where you once would have over-explained. You choose peace where you once would have defended. You choose patience where you once would have forced. And this restraint confuses people who are used to reacting. But restraint is not passivity. It is mastery. This is why the world cannot copy what God is doing in you. They can copy words. They can copy posture. They can copy aesthetics. But they cannot copy inner authority. They cannot fake the calm that comes from obedience. They cannot manufacture the certainty that comes from surviving what almost broke you. This power was earned through surrender. And surrender cannot be replicated. If you're in this season, where you no longer feel the need to prove anything, let me tell you something clearly. You are not losing momentum. You are entering dominion. And dominion does not explain itself. It simply is. Yes, people will try to copy what God is doing through you. They'll use similar language, similar aesthetics, similar messages. But it won't land the same. Because they didn't walk your path. They didn't lose what you lost. They didn't forgive what you forgave. They didn't stay obedient when quitting would have made sense. And without that history, the power has no foundation. It collapses under pressure. Yours won't. Here's something subtle but important. You're responding differently now. Things that used to trigger you, don't. People who used to drain you, fade away. Situations that used to confuse you, clarify quickly. That's not emotional numbness. That's spiritual maturity activating power. You're no longer reactive. You're responsive. And the world cannot fake that level of inner authority. There is a reason everything hasn't gone public yet. A reason your breakthrough hasn't been fully visible. A reason your name isn't being spoken everywhere. A reason your power feels contained, not broadcast. This is not delay. This is divine protection. Because what God has placed inside you is not meant to be handled by everyone, and definitely not too early. You see, exposure before readiness doesn't elevate power. It dilutes it. God understands something the world ignores. Not everything that shines is safe when seen too soon. That's why some of your greatest growth happened in obscurity. Why your most intense transformations happened where no one applauded. Why your strength was built in private seasons that felt invisible. Those seasons weren't empty. They were shielded. If God had exposed you earlier, people would have touched what they didn't understand. They would have projected their insecurities onto you. They would have tried to shape your calling to fit their comfort. They would have accessed what they were never assigned to steward. And God does not release sacred power into careless hands. So He hid you. Not to punish you, but to preserve you. You may have wondered why things moved slower for you. Why others seemed to rise faster. Why people with less depth had more visibility. Why your gifts were obvious, but your platform wasn't. This wasn't oversight. This was precision. Because visibility without grounding creates collapse. And God refuses to build something through you that cannot sustain its own weight. Here's something few people understand. God doesn't just protect you. He protects what flows through you. Your discernment. Your authority. Your influence. Your spiritual weight. These things attract attention, both light and dark. An exposure too early would have invited interference you weren't meant to fight yet. So God builds strength first. Roots before reach. Right now, you may feel like you're standing on the edge of something. Not struggling like before. But not fully released either. That in-between space? That's not stagnation. That's containment. Like a seed in the soil. Unseen, but very much alive. Breaking through the surface before its time would destroy it. So it waits. Not idle. Preparing. This is why your life doesn't look chaotic anymore, but it also doesn't look explosive. There's order now. Stillness. A strange sense of quiet confidence. That's because God is sealing you before revealing you. What's sealed cannot be stolen. What's sealed cannot be mimicked. What's sealed carries authority when it opens. People may underestimate you right now. They may think you're not as impactful as you are. They may overlook you. They may even dismiss you. Let them. Protection often looks like invisibility to those who don't know what's forming. But when God removes the covering, there will be no confusion. You don't need to rush exposure. You don't need to force recognition. You don't need to announce what God is still fortifying. Because when this power is finally revealed, it will not need promotion. It will announce itself. Understand this clearly. God protects His anointed from premature applause. Because applause can intoxicate. Applause can distract. Applause can replace obedience if it comes too early. So He waited until you learned how to stand without it. That's why you're still grounded. That's why your ego didn't take over. That's why your spirit stayed clean. And here's the part meant to settle your heart. Nothing meant for you has passed you by. Nothing has been stolen. Nothing has been delayed beyond purpose. Nothing has been wasted. What God hid, He hid on purpose. And what He protected, He is about to entrust. Soon you'll notice subtle changes. People listening differently. Doors opening without struggle. Your presence carrying weight without explanation. Not because you forced it, but because the protection phase is almost complete. So stay steady. Stay humble. Stay aligned. You are not behind. You are covered. And what God protects this carefully. He releases powerfully. You're entering a season where you don't chase alignment. Alignment finds you. Conversations shift. Opportunities appear. Connections feel recognizable, not forced. That's because this power rearranges reality around you. Not aggressively. Naturally. And the world will call it coincidence. But you'll know better. This message did not reach you by accident. Out of thousands of voices. Out of endless content. Out of all the moments you could have been distracted. You are here. And that alone matters. Because some messages inform. But others intercept you, right at the edge of a shift. This one intercepted you. You might not even realize how close you are to a turning point. Not because something dramatic is about to explode outwardly, but because something settled inwardly. God speaks differently when you're ready. Earlier in your life, messages like this would have sounded unrealistic, or too intense, or confusing. But now, it lands. Because you've lived enough to recognize truth when it speaks quietly. This message found you now because you're no longer searching blindly. You're listening. There is a difference. Searching comes from lack. Listening comes from readiness. And readiness changes how revelation arrives. God does not shout at prepared hearts. He confirms. If you've felt recently like you're standing in a pause, not lost, not stuck, just aware, that's the space where guidance shows up. Not to push you, but to steady you. This message came to calm the last layer of doubt, not to excite your ego. You may have noticed that old fears don't grip you like they used to. Old habits don't satisfy you. Old distractions feel empty. Old versions of you feel distant. That's because you're already shifting. And when a shift is genuine, God sends recognition, not pressure. This message also found you because the season ahead requires clarity. Not hustle. Not force. Not overthinking. Clarity. You're entering a phase where small misalignments matter more than big mistakes. So God adjusted your focus before movement increased. That is wisdom. There are things ahead of you that will require inner certainty. Moments where external validation won't be available. Decisions where no one will fully understand your reasoning. Opportunities that will test whether you trust God more than momentum. This message came before those moments, not after, so you don't doubt yourself when they arrive. And let's be honest. You've had questions. Not loud ones. Quiet ones. Questions like, am I really on the right path? Why does this feel so different now? Why do I feel separated, but peaceful? This message didn't answer those questions with explanations. It answered them with recognition. You didn't need more information. You needed reassurance that you weren't imagining the shift. You're not. This is alignment becoming visible internally. And alignment always feels quieter than chaos, but far more powerful. This message also found you now because you're no longer meant to turn back. Not because something is chasing you, but because something is calling you forward. And God confirms direction when you're willing to keep walking without certainty. That's faith matured. Take a moment. Look at where you were months ago. Look at how you react now. How you think now. How you choose now. That didn't happen randomly. Growth happened without announcement. And now awareness is catching up. So if you felt something reading or hearing this chapter, a calm, a knowing, a release, that's not emotion. That's alignment clicking into place. This message found you now to remind you. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are positioned. And what comes next will make sense only because you listened when it was quiet. Stay present. Stay grounded. And trust this. Messages don't arrive early. They don't arrive late. They arrive when you're ready to receive them. And you are. Take a breath. And say this quietly, or out loud if you can. I accept the power God placed within me. I no longer doubt what He formed through my journey. I release the need to be understood by those who did not walk my path. I move forward grounded, protected, and aligned. What God has released in me cannot be copied, diluted, or taken. I am ready. Pause. Feel that. This is not hype. This is recognition. If this message resonated deeply, don't rush away from it. Let it settle. And if you are part of the chosen who felt this rather than just heard it, you already know. This is only the beginning. Stay aligned. Stay grounded. And remember, what God is releasing through you, the world will try to copy, but it never will.